I was a kid from a dirt farm. There's no high class, there's no big culture, there's no big degree, there's no corporate thinking. There was the Courier Journal coming from Louisville every day. That was our reading. There was TV out of Cincinnati and Louisville. There was a wonderful book of knowledge set that my baby parents bought when we were, I don't know, late middle or late elementary school or something. My parents were teenage parents, Summer. They had to get married because they didn't know me yet, but I was on my way. And so there was also that. There was talk about obstacles. They just did what they knew they needed to do, and that's what they're still doing. And so I think I picked up something from that too. But so I was born, and then 4 more, and then that was a busy, big family to be the eldest of, and to help with, and to work with, and to help feed. And so coming out of that then, and trying to value the background and the place and the people I'm part of, but also strive to what actually need to leave it, to see for myself that there was something else I wanted to do, something more I wanted to become.
Hey everybody, I'm back with another episode of So Success Stories. And today I am talking to my friend, Deborah Clubb. And Deborah is Executive Director of the Memphis Area Women's Council and the co-founder of Women of Achievement. And I had the privilege of meeting Deborah when I had the privilege of being honored as a Woman of Achievement. And I think that was in 2012 when I received the Heroism Award. And at the time, I'd never heard of Women of Achievement, but once I did, I felt like I was welcomed into an amazing community, almost amazing sorority of women. And I got introduced to Deborah, and Deborah has become a friend of mine. And a woman that I truly admire for so many reasons. And one, of course, for being a co-founder of Women of Achievement. So Deborah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Summer. It's great to see you. Great to see you healthy and smiling. And this is my first podcast experience, so thank you for that. I came to Memphis in 1978. I grew up in rural Kentucky, working very literally on our family's farm, chopping weeds out of tobacco patches and helping baby pigs get born and all kinds of other things in the garden and around the farm. I went to high school in a countywide high school, Henry County High. I think there were 109 in my graduating class. Henry County at that time was more like 1950 than 1970. So it was a little bit, like Grease or American Graffiti, or, figure out another movie set in that earlier time. But of course, the world was actually changing a lot, and I was able to go to a really great university, Transylvania University in Lexington, Kentucky.
I've seen Transylvania.
Yeah, it's famous for a lot of jokes about Transylvania with the vampires and so forth of the other European Transylvania, but it's a very historic school. It was the first university west of the mountains way back in 1700s, and those mountains. And anyway, I had a great experience there, majored in history and English, and went to journalism graduate school at Northwestern above Chicago. Worked in Washington, D.C., where I had severe case of Potomac fever and really wanted to stay because that was the Watergate era. That was when things were just really exciting around our national politics, exciting and terrifying. And journalism played a big part, of course, we know, in what happened to our democracy at that time. So I got into writing about agriculture because I had a farm background. So that's how the job I could find in Washington after I was there as part of graduate school. But that was not daily newspapering, which is what I wanted to do. I had run my college newspaper, and I just really was drawn to the work of daily journalism. So when I was looking around for work, actually my the graduate school chairwoman called me and said she'd had a call from Memphis looking for someone to cover agriculture in the Mid-South. So here I came by way of Route 2 Pleasureville, Kentucky, through Chicago, over to Washington, and now all the way down to Memphis to begin my daily journalism career. And I have been here now since 1978. So I got here 10 years after the assassination. I got here 10 years after downtown had really started to empty out. And I was part of writing about the revival of the city, the revival of downtown, opening of Graceland, opening of Mud Island, just all kinds of interesting things that have been going on. And then in 2003, I wrapped up that journalism career and came to work as the first and still so far only administrator of the Memphis Area Women's Council, a nonprofit created to give women a voice again in Memphis policy and advocacy. So that's all of that. I also can talk at some point about marriage and children and all of that, but that's
well, look, I think that's so awesome, Deborah, because you do such a great job of telling other people's stories, and I've never heard yours. I've never heard yours. That is so cool. So yeah, talk a little bit about your family.
The family of origin is still very near and dear, even though they're all still now again in Kentucky. And I married 32 years ago a former colleague from the newspaper who from his first marriage had 4 children. So I was suddenly mother to 4 talented, exciting young people. And then we had our own daughter together. So there are 5 children and now 12 grandchildren among that tribe. And David and I have had a very interesting life together. We're both writers and creative people, and have this old house together here in Midtown, right behind Central High School. Neither of us is from here, so we're very much Memphians by choice, and have been very committed to trying to be part of making Memphis all it can be.
I think that's awesome. And Deborah, I'm a Memphian by choice too. A lot of people think I'm from Memphis, but I'm not. But I've been here since 1997. So I've been here for a little while too. Not quite as long as you, but I've been here for a little bit too. Talk a little bit about Women of Achievement and why you started Women of Achievement before we get into the question.
Yeah, thank you for letting me do that, because Women of Achievement was my first baby. Catherine was my living human baby, but Women of Achievement was very much a project of love, and certainly one that required a community of women as well. Women of Achievement dawned on me as something that I had to do because I got really ticked off about, as a young reporter, being sent over and over and over again to cover these elaborate, robust events that were done to honor men around the community for making a lot of money, giving some of it to something, and then having all their friends come pay a lot of money to be at a dinner or a lunch in his honor. And it was always men. There were men of the year for this, that, and the other. It was for every kind of I shouldn't do that. Every kind of charity or cause or whatever, or a profession, different professions saluting each other as the years went by. I just got really weary of that because I knew as a reporter that women were in fact under and around and behind all kinds of important things that were being done in the community, in organizations, in businesses, to help all kinds of forgotten people, especially. So it just came to me that we ought to have something, a huge, uproarious, gala, sparkling event to honor and celebrate women. And I'm a film fanatic, so I also was, as a kid off on the farm, I watched the Oscars every time. So here's, the open the envelope, please, and cheer, and sparkle. And so I thought, let's do something like that. We won't even say who they are. We'll get nominations and we'll choose, and then we'll have this, and the winner is. So Jeannie Dreyfus was a phenomenal community organizer and friend, and she had helped do a grant-funded project here called Women in the Community, which was done at the public library when it was still here in Midtown. And they found stories of women in medicine, women in the law, women in politics, and so forth, and did these presentations about their stories, this series of presentations. And so, okay, so there's some awareness of who these women are and whatever. We need to, they're the ones who have died. They were in our history. How can we get all this together? So I got with Jeannie, and then we got another set of us together, about 12 of us. And from that came Women of Achievement with 7 awards, 1 from history, 6 from living current work. And Women of Achievement it's now 260 some women's stories on our website and in our books. And I'm just very gratified that we've been able to hold on to these women's stories and put them out there for inspiration, for training, for education, for cautionary tales, whatever it might be, but most of all, to be remembered and celebrated and thanked.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And as you can tell, I like stories too. That's why I'm doing this because I agree. All the things that you said, cautionary tales, to be celebrated, to provide inspiration, whatever it might be, that's what our stories can do. I think it's beautiful that you've done that. And now it's been what, 40 years? How long? How many? 36.
Yeah, and then COVID stopped us. So for 2 years we haven't had the celebration, but yeah, we had some special events around the 35th. We did an exhibit down at County Hall and so forth. And I'll tell you, when you put them all together, and it is pretty impressive. And I'm also very proud, Summer, of the diversity that we have in that cadre. If it's a sorority, if it's a sisterhood, if it's a panorama, whatever it is, it really is gratifying. And I'm just awfully proud that we keep that going.
And you should be. So I was definitely a part of the 35th celebration, and like you said, that's one of the greatest honors to me is to see the caliber of women and the diversity of the women that you've honored and celebrated. It's just a beautiful thing. And I'm honored to have been a part of it and to still be a part of it, because I'm
absolutely, you are a woman of achievement. You are one.
So let's get into the questions.
Okay.
So in this program, I have what I call the So What Success System. And it's my belief that if anyone can learn how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices, they can achieve so what success. And that's success in spite of any obstacles they face. So Deborah, talk to us a little bit about some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome. And I know you've overcome some, because I think that's why you resonate with me so much, because you're so, you seem so calm and sweet. And then you got this spicy side to you. And I'm like, yeah, that's my kind of woman. So yes, you know how to overcome obstacles. Talk to me about something that you've overcome.
I will be happy to do that. And if I get emotional, you just have to let me get through that. Because I am at a moment in life to reflect some. And I grew up, as I say, on the farm, and it was hard work, and it was, I wouldn't take anything for it. I think it taught me everything about perseverance and what's really important. But the obstacle in that was that I was a kid from a dirt farm. There's no high class, there's no big culture, there's no big degree, there's no corporate thinking. There was the Courier Journal coming from Louisville every day. That was our reading. There was TV out of Cincinnati and Louisville. There was a wonderful book of knowledge set that my baby parents bought when we were, I don't know, late middle or late elementary school or something. My parents were teenage parents, Summer. They had to get married because they didn't know me yet, but I was on my way. And so there was also that. There would talk about obstacles. They just did what they knew they needed to do, and that's what they're still doing. And so I think I picked up something from that too. But so I was born, and then 4 more, and then that was a busy, big family to be the eldest of, and to help with, and to work with, and to help feed. And so coming out of that then, and trying to value the background and the place and the people I'm part of, but also strive to what actually need to leave it, to see for myself that there was something else I wanted to do, something more I wanted to become. So that's still, that's still in there. So I did have great teachers. I had people who supported the whatever talent or potential they might have seen. And my parents were always willing to help us do whatever we could find. I was a longtime member of 4-H. I don't know if you know 4-H.
I do.
I give that organization a lot of credit for being a centering place for not only fellowship, because I wasn't an athlete. Well, girls' sports was an oxymoron at that time anyway. But I had 4-H, and so I could get in there and I could learn leadership, and I could practice leadership. I could also literally learn how to learn a skill and use it and excel at it. So there you go. What's the problem? How do you fix the problem? Go fix the problem. And that was also part of farm life. Something's broken. Well, Louisville was at that time about an hour and a half or 2 hours away. So where's the part, or where's the fix, or where's the thing that you need? Figure it out, make one. So that's really in my DNA. And so those obstacles I didn't come out of something where I felt empowered to go to college. I hadn't seen in my own family people go to college. There wasn't a whole lot of it in my high school. And my 2 best friends were so convinced that I wasn't going to go because of my romance with my high school boyfriend and because of the way the world worked. They decided on what school they were going to and that they'd be roommates. And they didn't even talk to me about it because they figured I was going to get married and stay there and have babies. Mm-hmm. So I think the first obstacles for me were to be able to look beyond what was in front of me and have enough of a sense of support and how to find resources and, win the little scholarships that were around to be won, and just keep on until I could get where I wanted to go.
So we have a few things in common. So my family had farmland too. I'm from a small town. You probably thought I was from Jackson, Tennessee, which I am, but before that I was from Bolivar, Tennessee.
Okay.
Which is a small town, and my family has farmland there. I didn't grow up on the farm, and I wasn't doing the farm work that you described, but my family was. Mm-hmm. And so I am a small town girl, and I also understand what it's like to have to break away and do something different and unexpected and not really have the role models in the path to follow, a clear path to follow. But like you, I know the rewards of it. I know the challenge of it, and I also know the rewards of it. I'm also the oldest of 5, like you.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
I am. Well, I definitely appreciate you sharing that. And you said something else that really resonated with me. When I was teaching my class at the University of Memphis, I taught a life skills class where my book was a textbook. I don't know if you remember that or not. Yep, it was so cool. The dean of the business school asked me to create a class, and I taught it for 5 semesters. And then my speaking career kind of took off, and I was traveling too much to be able to teach it. But one thing that I always say when my students would say, well, I don't know how to do this, or how do you do that? And I had this one student who I looked at him and he could read my mind. And he said, I looked at him like, what are you thinking that I'm thinking? He said, figure it out. And so for the rest of the semester, whenever a student was like, well, how do I would look at him and point, and he would say what you just said too, figure it out, figure it out. So
Yeah.
good. I appreciate you sharing that. So obstacles, you know about, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, there are a couple of more that I want to mention quickly, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
And they could also have been excuses, but my mother has always, well, since I was about 6, has struggled with mental illness. So I was actually without her repeatedly over my childhood because she would go away for treatment. And I think that was another thing that made it difficult for me to necessarily picture myself making it in some ways, because that was a big struggle, and that was my mother. So to not only see her pain, but to just wonder, can I make it past that, or is that going to be me? That was the thing. And then there's something that I've always shared with my good friend Otis Sanford. He and I sat across from each other for years at the Commercial Appeal, and we were kind of proud of the fact that we were the two we knew who had grown up without running water until we were 14. And here we were. So, yeah, so there's obstacles and there's obstacles, but yeah.
I love it. I you know what, and I, even with that last statement, is I reflect on my childhood, and like, we had running water, but we were, I would probably say lower middle class. And but how much I appreciate that. I can really, really appreciate it, because it makes me appreciate everything in life so much more because of it. Okay, so you alluded to it already. The next part of So What Success System is eliminating excuses. We all have obstacles. And you talked about some of them, and I know you had others, but you decided to move forward. Talk about some of the excuses you had to eliminate to get to where you are today.
Well, not the situation, I guess, that presented itself, that I did not have what I needed. I did not have automatically a family that could pay college tuition. I did not have automatically anything in my environment about what it is to work in a corporate setting or anywhere but on a farm, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking for resources, not only the financial resources, but the people that I could draw on who had gone to college, obviously a lot of teachers, but also folks met along the way who, just modeling. You just learn to model, watch and learn, all right, and pick up how to behave, how to ask the right questions, how to learn, how to make it through the world. And I was lucky to have parents, like I say, who even with the struggles, they never told me we can't, or you can't, or we can't help you with that. I had put together everything I could for college, and I was telling my dad, I don't know, and he just said, just go, we'll figure it out. And we did.
Wow.
And then I went to graduate school at Northwestern, for Pete's sake. What? And yeah, and some of that was on my own, college background. That I think they were pretty tickled to have somebody from Route 2 Pleasureville, Kentucky up there with all those kids from Brooklyn and Manhattan and Phoenix and Houston. And the woman at the time, who was dean of the Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern, actually told me I was the first farm kid she'd seen in the program. She grew up in the outback of Australia on a farm and made it to the Forbes bureau chief in Moscow before she left, you know, the writing of journalism and came to work as the dean at Medill. So she was delighted to see a farm kid in her program. But yeah, so got away from those excuses and got a little ways along. Yeah.
Well, it's just definitely proof that if you have the desire, you can make anything happen, even without the example, even without the money, even without the resources. If you just learn how to figure it out, learn how to figure those things out. And I think that is just thinking, Deborah, I'm like, you just never know people. And that's why I really like doing these interviews, because I'm talking to people I've known for years. And I'm like, I didn't know you at all. I just knew you were great. I knew you were a so what woman. I knew that, but I had no idea the depth of your story. Okay, so the final part of the So What Success System is calculating choices. And so you've talked about some of the choices that you've made. And I so appreciate you sharing this. And I know it can be hard. And I'm even reflecting on my life and my journey as you're talking about yours. But it's calculating choices. What are some of the choices that you've made along the way to get to where you are today?
Well, a big one is about marriage. I did not marry that high school boyfriend and commute to the community college in Frankfort, Kentucky, our state capital, which would have been an hour drive each way, and get my college that way, which was an option that I actually looked at. I went to that college and looked around. I thought, well, okay, we can afford this, and I could get married. So I didn't do that. That was a choice. I did not stay. I did not do that. Then college, a small liberal arts college where I could have really direct interaction and relationship with college professors. None of this 500 people in a lecture hall kind of thing. So I'm kind of a snob. Good friends at the University of Memphis, but certainly for me, coming out of that small environment I was from, it was a nice, nurturing situation to be at Transy with, once again, about 109 in my graduating class. Yeah. And just tremendous relationships with tremendous PhD experienced, veteran, seasoned people. But then after a few more years of thinking I was just going to be the world's greatest aunt to all of my nieces and nephews that my brothers and sister were having, I found this relationship with a man who cooks and is a feminist and all those sorts of necessary things. And so then I did get married. And then the choice there was big. I mean, by then it really was a change in the career trajectory, because the other choice would have been to try really hard to push my way into management, newsroom management, and getting married, and then a year and a half or two later having an infant of my own. I got out of that knee-breaking kind of claw and go, grit and grind attitude. I stayed at the paper. I still did a lot of good work, and I still had a lot of long days. But there was no way I could have quite pulled off being the parent I wanted to be, and quite what it would take to push through. The newspaper here was not supportive really of women in a lot of ways, so I probably would have even needed to think about leaving town, and it all just wasn't gonna go. So gave me more time to devote to Women of Achievement or other church. I was leader at church. I was always a joiner. That was one thing that from 4-H and other other experiences, I've always been a joiner. And once I join, I tend to lead. I think that's the eldest kid thing, right, Summer?
I think I'm that girl too.
Yeah. You can't just sit and wait and be put on a committee. You got to form the committee, lead the committee, bring the report, and then run for office. So, yeah. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. That makes me think about even my Women of Achievement journey. So I was happy to be honored. And then I was like, what can I do to help? And
Exactly.
And I'm really, you know what, even with that, Deborah, that makes me think about it. I've been meaning to thank you. And I know it wasn't really intentional, but you put me in a position where I know when I picked up Miriam DaCosta Willis, you asked me to pick for our photo. And that was because of you that I picked her up. And she was so nice and she was so sweet to me. And we laughed and joked. And of course, I brought her to the photo session and I took her back home. And I was able to develop a relationship with her because of you. And of course, she is what was an amazing woman. And I'm so glad that the University of Memphis honored her before we lost her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am too. I didn't
even realize the magnitude of who she was when I had the time to be with her.
I know. Totally unassuming.
Yep. But I definitely appreciate you for providing me with that opportunity. So many other opportunities of women that you've put me in the position to meet. And I have to give a shout out to Deborah Hester Harrison too, who nominated me for the award and the reason why I'm connected to you now. Many other great women. So okay, so the SOA success system, you can overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices. You can achieve SOA success. And Deborah, you are a beautiful example of that, a SOA success woman. But what is your personal definition of success?
I don't know if I can articulate it very simply, because it seems to be, I'm a big believer in history. I'm a habitual history student. Obviously, we've just been talking about women of achievement and the great importance I put on women's stories, women's voice. That's what Memphis Area Women's Council is about. Getting our voice heard, telling our truth, getting what we need. So for me, success is not self-based. My success has to do with what I can make happen around me. I need to feel like there's some kind of lasting effect on my existence, not how much fun did I have, or not how many trips I took. And certainly it's got nothing to do with money. Right now, I'd love to have a whole bunch of money so I could just, as soon as this all gets better, go see some places in the world. But success for me is making a difference for the women and girls, especially in my world. And I've got a bunch of granddaughters and 4 daughters and a sister and nieces, and just my grandmothers were real important. They were 2 of the other people that had me. I don't even know if they did it with words, but somehow I know I got from them, do more, go out and do more. They were limited by what they had come out of and where they had settled themselves and the men they were involved with. And neither of them had it easy. Both of them were, one was extremely creative and one was the hardest working person I've ever known. So I think I'm carrying a legacy. Got to do more for the women and girls to come.
Well, Deborah, if that's how you define success, you definitely are already successful. And I can appreciate the do more in you. But I think about the women and girls that you've already impacted, me being one, but there are countless others in your world who you have, you've impacted lives. And being a storyteller as you are, and as I am too, I know for sure that you've impacted way more lives than you'll ever know, than you'll ever hear about. And I can really resonate with what you're saying too about your grandmothers, because I have mine. I'm so blessed to have mine. One is 95 and one will be 100 in March. And like you too, as a storyteller, I've written books for both of them about both of their lives. And it's so funny, as you say, you don't know if they did it with words. It's the same with mine. They didn't do it with words. They weren't, Summer, you can do this, and they weren't those kind of women, and neither is my mom. But yeah, just as examples, and very similar to what you just said, and some of the limitations that they had and the challenges that they had. But I feel like I'm a fighter and a stronger woman, just from seeing them and knowing their stories. So I love that we have that in common too. Okay, one last question. And this has been great. This has really been a really powerful conversation for me, and I know it will be for others who see this. But what advice would you give to someone who is watching this and they want to be successful, however they define success for them, but they want to be successful, but they face challenges, maybe challenges like you face as a young person. What advice, a general advice you would give?
I think whatever you're sitting in, whatever you're looking at, whatever is crashing in, it's real important to say not why can't I, or why can't we, or why can't it, but how can we? How can I? I get very annoyed very quickly with people who just, oh, it'll take forever, or there's no way, or I have to wait until I can find, or somebody else has to, or how can I? And get on with it.
Get on with it and get on with it. On that note, I love it. I love it. I love it. We have the same mentality. I agree. I totally agree. I thank you so much, Deborah, for sharing so much. I feel like I know you so much better now. I love you so much more even.
Thank you. Thank you for this, sweetie. I appreciate it.
And I appreciate you sharing your story. Thank you, Deborah.
Okay, bye.